Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Yesterday, Thomas Monheim, who's the Inspector General for the Intelligence Community, met with members of the House Oversight Committee in a secret classified briefing to talk about the David Grusch assertions. Now, when this hearing was over, this secret skiff, as they're called, was over. A lot of the representatives were interviewed by media outside of the hearing room, and they really couldn't say much about it. But some of them seemed enthusiastic about it. Some of them seemed like, well, it's nothing like I knew all of this. I suspected this before, stuff like that. But the good part is that there was a hearing. That it's good to know that the members of Congress, and it's a bipartisan effort, by the way. It's Republicans and Democrats. It seems this UAP seems to be the only thing they get along with. That they seem to agree on these days. It's a bipartisan effort, and they're moving forward with this. They received some information yesterday. Of course, they can't share that with the public because a lot of this information is classified. But hey, it's a step forward. We're getting there. We're actually having congressional hearings and congressional briefings about UAP and the cover-up and assertions made by whistleblowers like David Grusch. And also, I got to say that what was surprising about this is that the mainstream news, for the most part, was pretty serious about this. Even surprisingly, the New York Times, there was an article that was penned by Kayla Guo and Julian E. Barnes. Of course, I've talked about Julian Barnes before in the past. He seems to try to make a joke out of UFOs on every time he can, at every turn. Now, he did insert a couple of digs at the UFO community in here to try to make the UFO community look like goofballs for believing in this stuff. But for the most part, the article that he put out there with his that was co-written with Kayla Guo, it was pretty straightforward news. So I got to give him credit there. Before I move on, I just want to talk about what he did say. This was something that actually Joe Murgia, the UFO Joe, pointed out on Twitter about the New York Times piece. He says, but you can't have, he said it wasn't a bad article, which it wasn't. It was a good article, considering that it's coming from the New York Times. They're not making fun of this, which is great. But Joe says, you can't have a Julian Barnes piece without an anonymous comment like this. One U.S. official said the government still has no evidence of space aliens visiting planet Earth. So basically, that's basically people in the UFO community view that as a dig. And not only that, he's using an anonymous source. Some unnamed government official says that we still have tell them we have no evidence of space aliens. Say it's space, use the term space aliens too, visiting planet Earth. Make it sound as goofy as you can, Julian. Because it's all nonsense. You know that, right, Julian? I don't think that reporters like Julian Barnes actually believe in UFOs, or they've never done enough research to understand that there is something to this phenomenon, that there is some presence here that's a non-human intelligence presence here. Some people out there do know this. Some people have done their research. This guy has not done his research, but apparently he was ordered to do a straight kind of news piece on this. And for the most part, it was outside of that, comments like that. But anyway, some of the comments that were delivered by members of the House Oversight Committee as they came out of the skiff, Jason Moskowitz, for instance, he said, this is the first real briefing that we've now made, I would say, progress on some of the claims Mr. Grusch has made. This is the first time we kind of got a ruling on what the IG thinks of those claims. But of course, unfortunately, he didn't get a chance. He couldn't say, because it's classified, what the ruling is, or what it pertains to exactly. Now, we do know that Grusch was concerned. He actually filed a complaint with the IG that he was receiving repercussions for investigating this, for planning to go public with what he learned and all that kind of stuff. We know about that. But unfortunately, the people that in Congress that were at this secret skiff yesterday were unable to provide any more details on that. But also, Moskowitz also said, there's a lot of new questions and a lot of new areas to ask and poke in based on what we got in this meeting. And then Robert Garcia, he's a Democrat from California, said he would have loved to receive more information, but he was happy that he did learn interesting additional information to continue the investigation and ask more questions. And then, of course, Representative Tim Burchett, he's a Republican of Tennessee and basically the figurehead for this UAP House caucus that has been formed over the last year or so. He seems to be the most outspoken of the group. Him and probably Anna Paulina Luna. He's he was he I think he seemed to be a little bit upset with it. He wanted more. He basically what he was told, what he said, it was the information was things that he already knew about. But here was some quotes from him. He says. He said information from the executive branch officials is just whack-a-mole. You go to the next one until we get some answers. He said that he did learn at the meeting that some of the stuff that was talked about verified what he had already thought. And of course, intelligence officials declined to comment on the classified briefing, according to the New York Times. And also Monheim's office declined to comment as well. And then, of course, we get this unnamed U.S. official who says there's no evidence of space aliens. Right? We got that. Well, we don't know who that person is. Why would you even include that? If the person doesn't have the guts to go public with his name to make a statement like that, then why even use it? I mean, it's completely useless. But by putting that in there, it still leaves that. It makes the UFO community look goofy. That's what the whole purpose is behind writing words like this. Anyway, Anna Paulina Luna, she said, it's just become evident that there is overclassification and that we are continually being stonewalled. We are authorizing money that is supposed to be spent on certain programs, and yet there is compartmentalization in which Congress doesn't have access to oversight in those programs, and that's a problem. And then Raja Krishnamurti, he's a Democrat from Illinois, he said he was more concerned coming out of the briefing than he was when he went in. And he says, Mr. Grusch has made allegations that we're still trying to figure out the veracity of, and we haven't gotten the answers that we need. Unfortunately, I don't think that we're looking at the substance of his claims, and instead we're dancing around the procedural nature of his claims. So we're not really getting anything out of this, but at least these people in Congress some of the representatives are learning some things behind the scenes, and they're going to keep pushing this as best they could. And it is a big thing. It is a big deal. I mean, to have something like this happening right now, I mean, it says a lot of how far we've come, how far this topic is being viewed more seriously now by the people that we elect, and that they are, demanding to have these kind of hearings, and they're going to demand more. Obviously, Burchett wasn't too happy with this briefing yesterday. And he wants more. He says Burchett right out says that he believes that they're covering it up, that there is something going on here, and that they've been covering it up, and that's the truth. Anyway, here was an article from The Hill. It says about Burchett. It says classified UFO briefing energized Congress on issue. More hearings expected. Representative Tim Burchett said the classified briefing around unidentified anomalous phenomena, more commonly known as UFOs, may have only moved the needle a little bit, but it energized the House on the issue. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 4. I'd say the needle moved. It was bipartisan, Burchett told News Nation host Chris Cuomo in an interview Friday when asked about how the hearing went. He noted that the whole gang was in the room, pointing out Representatives Jarrett Moskowitz, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Representative Anna Paulina Luna. At one time, we had 16 congressmen in there, he added, and these were people that normally you wouldn't see. Lawmakers left the hearing with mixed feelings. Some were frustrated with the limited information, and some claimed they were given more insight after an explosive testimony by a whistleblower began conversations last summer. Thomas Monheim, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, spoke with House Oversight and Accountability Community members in an attempt to improve transparency around what the government knows about UAP. Burchett told Cuomo that he couldn't tell him what the big issue of the meeting was, but said the closed-door conference provided some validity to what's been said. Well, let me tell you what's been going on behind the scenes here. There's no question that the government has been, a portion of the government, a faction within the government knows about the extraterrestrial / non-human intelligence presence. They've been covering this up for a long time. The things that David Grusch has been talking about crash retrievals and reverse engineering programs, all of it's true. A lot of people in the UFO community knew this was true for years and decades before the past, since we've been in this renaissance, that I guess you could call it that, since 2017, since the release of those Pentagon videos. Ever since 2017, it's been like a renaissance for the UFO community. Because before that, it was always laughed at, joked about. Now it's a different story. Now we have Congress pushing, acknowledging that there's been a cover-up and acknowledging that they're not being told everything that they should be getting told. Burchett also noted that there will be more hearings on the issue and said that the meeting Friday did accomplish that it energized Congress to keep looking into the issue. Yes, it does, most certainly. The secret meeting comes after a hearing in July when Grusch, a former military intelligence officer, provided stunning testimony and asserted that the Pentagon and other agencies are withholding information about UAP. The Defense Department has denied those claims. Of course they did. Burchett previously said he believes in the existence of extraterrestrial life and has accused the government of covering up evidence of it. Yes, he's correct on that. Tim Burchett is completely, absolutely, 100% correct on that. There's no question about it. There's been a cover-up for a long time, and I guess this is what we have to do at this point. The only way we're going to try to get to the bottom of this is by having Congress, keep pushing this forward, keep demanding answers from people like Thomas Monheim, the intelligence community inspector general, people like that. We got to find out who's in control of this program. There was a lot of talk about from some of the people coming out of there about how compartmentalized this is, that you can't even get straight answers. Like if you ask one question about this program in a skiff, the person you need the answer from, there might be only one person out of 50 because the whole subject is so compartmentalized. The people who are working on this secretly only know about certain aspects of it. They don't know the full breadth of it. And as Grusch pointed out recently, as we all know, there's only 50 people in total who know the full extent of this phenomenon. So we need to get those 50 people testifying, force them to testify. That's what we do. We need to figure out who are these 50 people. Obviously, they must be part of the secret control group, and get them to start testifying. If that's ridiculous that only 50 people in the government know the full extent of this. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. How could that be beneficial to humanity? How could it be beneficial to humanity to only have 50 people knowing the full extent of the UFO phenomenon? That's absolutely absurd. Now, one more thing I want to point out. Now, I would have played. There is on Twitter. You could see a lot of these Congress people getting interviewed after they came out of the skiff. Now, that was something that was News Nation, a reporter for News Nation had put together, and I didn't want to play it on here because I don't want to risk getting in trouble for copyright infringement, so I didn't have it on there. But I will leave a link here where you could actually watch every single interview. It's about a 16-minute long video on Twitter. You can watch every single congressman getting interviewed individually as they came out of that skiff, and I will leave the link in the description so you can check that out for yourself. Again, I would have played it on here, but there's always in News Nation. There's a chance you're going to get, they'll knock you down, they'll flag you for copyright, and I don't want to run that risk right now. So, yeah, I will leave the link so you could check that out for yourself. But, there was other news this past week with regard to the UFOs, and this was a new proposed bill. And here's the headline: UFO sightings. In a first, civilian pilots could report UAP to FAA under proposed bill. And here, this is, again, a bipartisan effort. It says the bipartisan legislation, and this is from USA Today, the bipartisan legislation would enable commercial pilots and other airline employees to report UFO sightings to the FAA, which would share it with the Pentagon. Now, as a lot of us know in the UFO community, people who have studied this, for decades now, pilots, it's not a good idea if you're like an airline pilot to talk about UFOs. You can't even say you saw one to somebody, because if you tell somebody and they report it to their people in the FAA, the next thing you know, you might be getting removed from your position. See, the government for a long time it's been very clear. This is most certainly the truth. The secret control group has made it a crime, basically, for any pilot, the airline pilot, to talk about seeing UFOs publicly, because if they do, and maybe not even publicly, even if they talk to another pilot about it, and then that other pilot squeals on them, then next thing you know, they're losing their position, they're getting knocked down. Who knows? Bad things happen to pilots who report UFOs. That's been the case for many, many years now, because the government wants people to believe that there's nothing going on out there. There is no UFOs. There's no such thing as UFOs. So if you have an airline pilot stepping forward and saying, "I saw UFOs, I saw flying saucers," well, then they don't want that to happen, because that's not the narrative they want people to believe in. They want people to believe that there's nothing to it. That's how it's been for years. But now, with this proposed legislation, that should end that concern. It says here, commercial airline pilots who witness crafts flying through the skies in unexplainable ways would be able to report the UFO sightings to the federal government under a House bill introduced Thursday. The bipartisan legislation comes months after House leaders heard testimony from military officers who described reports of mysterious objects outmaneuvering military jets. Within weeks of the public hearing, the Pentagon's Office to Investigate UFOs unveiled a website where military members and other government workers could make reports of sightings dating back to 1945. But while the public can access declassified information about UFOs on the website, they are unable to make reports on their own. Representative Robert Garcia, a Democrat, and Representative Glenn Grothman, a Republican, both sponsored the new bill, which would at least create a reporting mechanism for civilian pilots who claim to see UFOs, which the government now refers to as unidentified anomalous phenomena. The term is not only less loaded than UFO, a label that many conjure images of flying saucers and little green men, but broadens its definition to include objects spotted not just in the sky, but also near or underwater. I don't like the idea that some people believe that UFO is a loaded term now. I still like it better than UAP. I like UFO better, but I guess we got to do this. I guess in the minds of too many people, they think of goofiness and stupidness and silliness. They attach ridiculousness to UFO, thanks to the mainstream news media and the Pentagon. Thank you very much for ruining the acronym UFO. It says here, Garcia called UFO transparency incredibly important for our national security, which he said was the basis for the proposed measures. The bill is another step forward for disclosure and to provide a safe process for UAP reporting by civilian and commercial personnel, he said. Under the provisions that Garcia and Grothman proposed, civilian and commercial pilots would be able to report UAP sightings to the Federal Aviation Administration, which would be compelled to raise them up to the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. FAA air traffic controllers, flight attendants, maintenance workers, dispatchers, and airlines themselves would also be able to make UAP reports under the legislation. Before bringing the reports to the resolution office, the FAA would first be required to compile relevant communication information or data to complement the first-hand sightings. If the bill were to be signed into law, the FAA would also be tasked with analyzing any threats such incidents could pose to national security and U.S. airspace. And the bill also includes legal protections for those who report sightings, which is the important aspect of this bill. It says among the most critical components that Garcia and Grothman included in their proposed legislation is language providing legal protections to those who make reports. The representatives acknowledge that a skeptical culture still exists that stigmatizes or punishes those who make claims of seeing unexplainable objects whizzing through the air. Now, that statement, let me just stop there. That statement is true. Right, there's no question that if the way this whole phenomenon has been stigmatized throughout the decades, people in the public they're going to be skeptical too, and they're going to, it's because it's stigmatized, right? But it's beyond just that. There's people in the government that don't like when pilots make these kind of claims. They don't like it because it goes against their narrative that there's no such thing as aliens from outer space. Pilots and other airline employees who report UAP would be shielded from being medically disqualified simply for making a report. The bill would also make it illegal for airlines to retaliate against employees who report sightings or to even issue cease and desist letters. Now, again, see, this is the important. This is the bread and butter of this whole bill here. This is why they need it. Because then it's illegal to retaliate against pilots for making reporting on UFOs. It makes it illegal. Grothman called the legislation a crucial initiative that empowers those on the front lines of our skies to contribute valuable intelligence regarding UAP sightings that can help ensure that potential threats are thoroughly investigated. Our bipartisan effort highlights our need for transparency from the federal government regarding UAP to better protect the safety and security of American citizens, Grothman said in a statement. And there's more to this article. Of course, I'll leave the link so you can check it out for yourself. But this is this is big news. The fact that another UFO legislation bill is being forwarded, one designed to protect civilian and commercial airline pilots from any sort of repercussions for reporting UFOs. Because I talked about before, there's been so many cases that I've heard of over the decades where pilots are afraid to talk about it because of the repercussions that will face. They'll say, well, this guy's medically unfit, so we can't have him flying. He's seeing UFOs. He's seeing things. It's ridiculous what's been going on over these. They'd be so stupid and dumb that we have the government doing this, right? To make people look like crackpots for reporting what they actually saw is absolutely ridiculous and absurd. I mean, this is the policy that we've had in place for decades now. And it's a shame that we even have to have legislation like this. But hey, I think we do have to have it. And I think it's pretty big news. Again, this is along with the hearing that we had on Friday and this bill being proposed. It's been a big week. It's been a pretty big start to the year we've had a lot of stuff going on this past week. We had the Jeremy Corbell jellyfish UFO coming out. That was very interesting. Everyone's talking about that. We've had the hearing yesterday. We have this new legislation to protect commercial airline pilots and civilian pilots, to give them an avenue to report what they see when they're up there flying without any concern about facing any kind of repercussions. It's big stuff going on here. We're starting to acknowledge our elected representatives know that there's something going on here, and in a bipartisan effort that we're acknowledging the existence of this presence here among us. We don't know. Again, we want more information. People who've been interested in this subject for years and years want the government to finally come clean and let the people know what they know. But we are making giant strides right now, and this past week has been fantastic, actually. Anyway, moving on. I just want to point out too, I've been really sick the last couple of days, and you can probably tell by listening to my voice. And for that, I apologize. But I'm sick as a dog. Actually, you know what? That's a terrible phrase. Sick as a dog. I mean, most dogs I've ever run into, they're usually healthy. So I don't know why people say sick as a dog. But I'm really pretty sick right now. Anyway, continuing here, I want to talk about the most recent Spotify poll that I ran, I guess just a couple days ago, for the episode Debunkers Stumble Trying to Discredit Corbell's Jellyfish UFO Video. I asked this question: what is the explanation of the jellyfish UFO video? So far, I have 81 votes with 26 days left. 4 people, or 4.9%, say secret man-made tech. I don't think so. I disagree with that strongly. I strongly disagree with that. Another 4 people, or 4.9%, say camera artifact. I disagree strongly with that. Disagree strongly. Like if you had you ever see those when they ask you when you're getting you're invited to do some kind of a survey for something, and they have approve strongly or disagree strongly. I'm going way to the bottom of that list. Disagree strongly. Okay, moving on here. 6 people, or 7.4%, say balloons. Oh, the debunkers love the balloon theory. I mean, they love to attach balloons to every UFO sighting. It's just, they love it. Balloons. Yeah, there was some people saying it was EID balloons. I don't see that. No, I don't think it's balloons. Besides, why balloons would have shown up on the night vision, but it didn't. And plus, they couldn't lock on it. I mean, you'd be able to lock on it because but they weren't able to do that. So that's no balloons. I say no. I strongly disagree with that. Okay, next one. 8 people, or 9.9%, say hoax. That's actually I disagree even more strongly with this one than even the other 3 I just mentioned. I disagree strongly with with hoax. That's no. I don't think if it was a bunch of civilians and then they filmed it. No, this is leaked government video. It's not a hoax. They actually saw it. We've heard a different witness step up. This Sinkoski guy, Michael Sinkoski. He talked about this, and they still don't know what it is. He thinks it's aliens now. So no, it's not a hoax. No way. I strongly disagree. Okay, moving on. 12 people, or 14.8%, say other. Now, I don't know if there was any comments in there that where they expanded on this, but I don't know what other could be. Maybe, I don't know. Please, put it in the comments section so we could know what you mean. And then 23 people, or 28.4%, say it's interdimensional. Maybe what we're seeing, right? Maybe it was a craft that was completely invisible, except some parts of the surface it wasn't working, and that's what you saw. And that's why it doesn't make any sense. It looks like some jellyfish floating there, but it's only if you were to see the whole thing, you realize that it was a giant craft. I don't know. But maybe it is interdimensional. I don't know. Maybe it's something poking out into our dimension from some other dimension that it just doesn't make sense to our brains. Okay, I could see that, but I'm not sure if I subscribe to that one. In fact, I do not. I don't strongly disagree with interdimensional. I just disagree. Extraterrestrial, 24 people, or 29.6%. You know what? I strongly agree with that one. I strongly agree with the majority. Extraterrestrial. Yes, that's where I'm going to go. I think it was I think it's some sort of extraterrestrial controlled whatever. I don't know what, but it was extraterrestrial behind it. That doesn't make me right. That's just what I'm saying. Okay. Let's go. Before I go, I'm just going to go check on the comments for this episode to see if anybody provided an explanation for other. Yes, Fred says, in fast speed, it looks like a robot man walking very fast, walking in a different reality, flitting in and out of our dimension. Well, that could be it. You know what? Actually, what it looked like to me, it looked like that robot that was in that Walt Disney movie, The Black Hole, from the 70s. Do you remember that robot, Maximilian? It looked something like that to me in my mind when I first saw it. Let's see here. Who else? Was there any other... Knorr 2023 says it was very compelling and he can't debunk it. It's hard to debunk it. Yeah, I think it's very hard to debunk it, especially when you look at the way it turns in that video, the way it was turning back and forth. So it was three-dimensional. That wasn't a smudge. I might have thought smudge if it wasn't turning, but it was moving. It was three-dimensional. You could see it. Somebody, Charlie Walker Jr. says he's pro Mick West. Mick West, of course, the high priest of the debunker cult. He says here, Mick demonstrates his hypothesis with facts and physics. A lot of times he is not even identifying the source object, but explaining what you see in footage. Jeremy does none of this, just testimony. I don't buy. Yeah, I'll tell you this. Mick West does come up with explanations, and he'll throw it out there. He'll throw some technical mumbo jumbo around it to fool a lot of people that are smart enough to understand what he's really doing. And sometimes he's right. Sometimes he is right. Sometimes he's looking at stuff and they are balloons. Sometimes it could be stars. I agree with some of the things Mick West points out, but he tries to debunk everything. You bring up some of the tougher cases, like the Turkey UFO videos, for instance. He just that was a hoax, wasn't it? He never looked into it. He can't. How's he going to debunk something like that? He can't do it. He'll stay away from the hard ones and go after these cases where it's really hard. You can't really tell one way or another, and he has no problem trying to debunk them. That's the problem with this guy. He's disingenuous. He doesn't give the AT reality any sort of credence whatsoever. Pardon me. And a lot of people, I just want to point out too, were pointing out how recently, this is a different. Recently, I was talking about David Grusch was at this. He made a presentation to some people in New York, to a private group of 60 people, and he was talking about this craft that that they had, that he was made aware of, where we're outside, it looks like it's only 30 feet in diameter, but then when you go inside, it's like a football field. A lot of people have been pointing out that reminds them of the TARDIS from Doctor Who. Of course, the TARDIS is that phone booth where you go in and it's like a whole another world in there. It's a lot bigger than what it looks like on the outside. But it looks like in some cases here, it looks like this could be a reality, that we actually could, that somebody, some advanced race has created this kind of technology. It's amazing. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.